Hello, hello. Today I am here with Linda A. Ford. I'm so excited for this conversation. We are going to be talking about confidence. And I don't know about you, but I could always use some help in that arena. This is going to be so much fun. For those of you that don't know me, I am Sabrina Victoria. I'm the host here at Her Talk Show. If you have not already subscribed, girl, get on that subscribe button. These podcasts are always guaranteed to have you thinking differently about life.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, drop into the comments and say hello. We have had over 500 women grace this stage, and we are adding another one to the list today. Linda A. Ford is a master certified coach. She works with smart women who have been on a spiritual and self-development journey for a long time and who desire to stand out, get noticed, and stop being invisible in their personal and professional life, but who continue to struggle with hiding out, playing small, and the fear of being seen and heard. I am so excited for this subject. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Sabrina. And yeah, doesn't that apply to most of us, really? Let's get honest about it. It's a human thing, right? So yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, 100%. So you are co-author of a best-selling book.
Yeah, a best-selling Kindle book. Yeah, in fact, I have a copy here. See, it's Women and Confidence, the truth about the lies we tell ourselves. And it's, I wrote it with another coach, Lana Bastianuti, who I used to work with. I had a collaboration. And so we wrote this book a couple of years ago, and we kind of, it's a real tell-all book. It's very personal, because I know that you really appreciate it when we tell stories, because that's how we learn, that's how we grow, right? That's how we get things, by hearing other people's stories. And so it's all story in that book, about our own personal experiences, within our business, within our relationships, and also the relationship we have with our physical body. So we cover all those areas with that main umbrella of confidence and insecurity. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So I know that you talk about the big myth with confidence. And I don't know if I've ever heard this before. What does this mean?
Yeah, it's been a long journey for me, Sabrina, and maybe before we go there, I'll just give a little context of how it led up to me discovering the big myth. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So, I can't ever remember a time in my life, maybe when I was a little kid, but I can't really remember a time when I did not feel insecure. I mean, this is something that I have lived with my whole life. And it's kind of ironically led me to have a real fascination with, why is it that some people shine and they're confident, and, they when they walk into a room, they stand out and people listen to them, that charisma, that confidence. Why is it that some people have it and some people don't? And I was always curious about that, because I didn't have it and I wanted it. But at the same time, I was really afraid to be that person who shines and stands out. There was a lot of fear getting in my way. But, this lack of confidence or insecurity and self-doubt, it really covered all areas of my life. It impacted my relationships. And to give you an example of how that happened, I would always find myself second, just kind of, settling for second best. I don't know if some of you've had that experience where you meet someone and you kind of, it's okay, and you kind of settle for that. And that's an example of insecurity, low self-esteem. And it would also impact my body, my physical, my attitude towards my body. That I had no confidence in how I looked and all that. And then it really impacted me most of all within my professional work. That's when I really came to see it play out big time. And, it's not that, the irony is that I had a series of jobs, professions, careers in my life where I was well educated, even though it took me until the age of 35 to go to college. That's how insecure I was. I never thought I was, college material. But I finally got round to going to college, and I graduated with the highest honors and went on to become an English professor. But every day I had to walk into that classroom, and it was as if I was on stage. And I had such anxiety for many years when I worked at the university teaching. And then I went on to international development work. And I was in this position where I was rubbing shoulders and mixing with some pretty high-level people at the United Nations, the World Bank, and a series of Ivy League schools. I mean, that job took me everywhere, all over the world. And once again, there I was, sitting in meetings, feeling like a complete imposter, right? And just waiting for the day when somebody would call me out and say, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. So needless to say, I had many years of just this pit in my stomach and just always feeling anxious about showing up and worrying about what other people were thinking about me. It really came to a head when I left those professions and decided I wanted to become a coach, because I had read so many self-help books about how to be more confident. And so I had all these books, and to cut a long story short, I just decided I wanted to become a coach myself, because I was so swamped reading self-help books. It just seemed like, the next best thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it too. I had a real interest in getting to the bottom of problems and helping, other people. So when I became a coach, that was the clincher, because I knew I was good at coaching. But I also knew that if I wanted to have a thriving business, I was going to have to put myself out there. I was going to have to be more visible. And the difference was that this was my business, right? It wasn't like somebody was hiring me. I had to be the engine that moved my business. And so it was I had to come to terms with the fact that I would need to self-promote. I would need to talk favorably about what I could do for people. And there was the rub right there, because I noticed that I wasn't comfortable doing those things. And I just reached a point where I thought, Linda, what's going on here? Because you're a coach and you're self-reflective, it was just a time where I felt I got to get to the bottom of this. And the other thing that happened, Sabrina, was that I had all these women coming to me for coaching, and they were all really just like me, smart, capable, hardworking, and really sincere people. And yet they were just full of this self-doubt and insecurity. And many of them were just hiding out, and the penny just dropped. I realized, oh my God, I'm one of them. And so it was a real wake-up call, but it was good, because it was the first time that I really wanted to address what was going on, and get to the bottom of it, because I was actually feeling, it was the best way I can describe it is that I felt like I had the handbrake on. You know how it is when you're driving your car and you've got the handbrake on,
Yeah.
and you're kind of moving, you're doing stuff, you're actually moving, but it's not a comfortable drive. There's something pulling you back, right?
Mhm.
Then you discover, oh, it's the handbrake that's on. And so you take it off and immediately you're propelled forward and the drive becomes a lot more easier.
Yeah.
And that's the metaphor that I like to use because, like so many women out there, I was doing stuff, I was coaching, I was putting out a newsletter, I was doing things, but that handbrake was on big time because I wasn't really coming into full view. I wasn't really feeling fully expressed. And so I got curious, what is keeping the handbrake on?
Mm.
So I'll stop there a sec if you want to interrupt me or ask me something, but I have lots to share about how I got the handbrake off.
Yeah, that would be my very next question. I do want to ask though, and this might take us a little bit on a sidestep, so I don't know if this is even a good place for us to go. When you were talking, I was kind of thinking about, like, I'm picturing you doing all these things, right? Like you're in these rooms and you're teaching in front of people and you're rubbing shoulders with these high-end individuals. Did you know you were lacking like, do people know that they're lacking confidence? Did you
Well,
like
I did. I
okay.
knew. Yeah, I just knew it. I had a lot of feelings of low self-worth and just this complete, it was really in what we call imposter syndrome. Like, what the heck am I doing here? I don't belong with these people.
Yeah.
These, how did I get here? This is an accident. This is a
Yeah.
mistake. And so I really did feel, on the one hand, like something big was going on. Like, wow, look at me sitting with these people at the World Bank. That was kind of like one hand. But then on the other hand, it was, oh my God, get me out of here. And I'll give you an example. We'd be sitting in a meeting, and I would pretend that I had a call coming in when I knew that the conversation was going to come around to me for an idea. And I was always excusing myself, going to the ladies' room. And that's the way it was. And so, yeah, I was aware that that I wasn't up to par with the other people.
Wow.
Which is not a nice feeling.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that, but there have definitely been times in my life where I've done something like that. Like I could foresee I was the next person, or no, everyone else had gone except for me or something like that. And yeah, excusing myself in some way or another, getting a call, what have you.
Yeah.
Totally. So I would love to hear the break. Tell us.
Yeah. So okay, so here's the thing. Even though I could give you lots of examples of how I felt insecure, I can honestly say that if I look back and at all those experiences, there were actual times in my life when I didn't feel that way. And there were times when I was confident. So, for example, we go to the UN and have a meeting, and I'd be all tense and whatever. And then we go back to the office, and I'm sitting around with all the interns, relaxed people I know. And we'd have a brainstorming meeting. And I was completely eloquent, self-expressed, relaxed. I felt like myself. And so there were many moments like that. And then another example, when I was in graduate school, I could talk endlessly to other women who were students, my peers, about an idea for a term paper, say. But then when I had to do it to a professor, I would just feel like I was back in grade school.
Mm.
So I could see, and this is the kind of reflection that I did when I became a coach, because I was just looking back and thinking about, was I ever confident? And yeah, I was. And so I became really curious about what was that all about? Where did that confidence come from?
Wow.
In those moments? And it's kind of interesting if you ask yourself, how come I can feel confident or insecure and then suddenly feel confident? Because we go in and out of those, right?
Wow.
And basically what I came down to I met some wonderful mentors who coached me through this, and they pointed this out, because I used to always have this phrase going in my head that, when I was curious about why is it some people are confident and some people aren't, I used to believe that some people have it and some people don't have it. That was my phrase that I used. Some people have it, some people don't. That special je ne sais quoi, and some people just don't, right? And I was the one who didn't have it. And I was talking to my mentor about this, and I was, as a coach, and I was thinking, I just don't understand why, I've just never had it. And I just don't think I can make this business work. And he said to me, Linda, you've always had it, but you just forgot. Yeah. You just got covered over. And with your life experiences, and your handbrake that you're talking about, you keep talking about this handbrake, is just your sense of self. It's the stories that you've been telling yourself about who you think you are, right? He says, but you've always had it. And he says, I have Michelangelo to back me up on this. He says, we know that story about how Michelangelo, when he would carve his statues, he knew that the statue was there, but he had to just chip away to reveal the beauty of the statue, right? Have you heard about that?
No, but that's good.
Yeah. And the whole basis of it was that, his creation was there, but he had to reveal it. And so when I heard that, it's like, oh, I got chills when I heard that. And he said, you're just covered with all these layers and layers of thinking and beliefs that you picked up from your childhood. Yeah. Someone said something to you, a teacher said something that hit you the wrong way. You got humiliated at school. It's all innocent. Actually, some of it isn't innocent. There's some pretty mean teachers out there. But this is what happens when we go through life. And some things just stick to us more than others. And we hold on to them. And we turn it into our identity. We think that's who we are. And he said, so that handbrake is just your sense of self, of who you think you are. But if you let those go, then the real you gets revealed. So when I heard that, Sabrina, it just kind of, I don't know what it is. There was something about how he said it and the words he used that it just kind of struck a chord with me. It just resonated very deeply on a soulful level. And it just really felt like the truth, It just felt like the truth. And that's the only way I can describe it. And that truth, when I heard it, it just felt like freedom. I felt like he just took a whole bag of rocks off my back, Yeah. And so if that wasn't true about me, if I did have it, then there was this whole new world of possibility that opened up for me. And for that moment, I just kind of saw that, right?
Yeah.
So did I wake up the next day and feel confident and put myself out there? No, it didn't work that way. But there was something about just seeing that truth and hearing it that I decided that, well, if that's true, if Linda really does have it, it's been there all along and it's just been covered over, then I'm going to start going through life believing that. I'm going to start, trusting. It was really about trusting that I had everything I need, that I had confidence. And as I look back on those times when I really had these pockets of confidence, all those years back, I used to think that that was just kind of a fluke thing that happened to me. Like I got out of bed the right side that day, I used to think it was something, just I was in a lucky day. But now that I look back on those days, I can really see that that was the real me trying to break out,
Yes.
That was me just kind of coming out, trying to unfurl, to blossom. But then I close it down again. I put the handbrake on again. So the handbrake came off for a while, even if it was just for a moment.
Yeah.
And then I put the handbrake back on, you know? So
that example that you're giving, it really created a sense of like certainty for me. Like when you were telling it, I was like, that just seems so sure, which in itself gives a feeling of confidence.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's like you go on this new adventure of this new thing, like for instance, carving something out of rock, and you don't know what it's going to look like. You're like, it might suck. Everyone's watching me. You don't know what it's going to look like. It could be horrible. His head could fall off. Like there's all these things. But the way he said it it was already there. It's not, it was, the exactly how it turned out is exactly what was already there. And it really like resonates with like a bright light of real certainty and confidence.
I love what you're saying there because I just had a senior moment there where I lost it. It's going to come back though. Yeah. I know what I was going to say, because a lot of us have this mistaken idea that confidence is showy, flashy success, and it's not just that. It can be that. But to me, confidence is being able to just feel comfortable in your own skin, whether you are successful or even if you show up and you screw up on something. It's about, confidence is about just really being in the flow of life, no matter what happens, and knowing that you're going to be okay. Right? Whether what shows up is beautiful or not so beautiful. It's all beautiful, really, And if we can just reach that point where we can put our work out into the world, or we can show up on a date and just be ourselves, comfortable in your own skin, and not be always up in your head thinking about, well, what is he thinking about me? What is she thinking about me? I've got to do this right. When all that mental chatter goes on in your head, the head bubble, it just interferes with everything. And that's when the handbrake is on. So I think it's just really good to know the difference and to kind of just observe yourself of how comfortable you're feeling on a moment to moment basis, when you're okay, when you're not okay, what's going on. Just notice when you're feeling anxiety. Before I got on this show with you, I was feeling a little anxious and nervous, and that's okay. Because that is always going to be there. It's part of us being human. And the difference now, though, Sabrina, is that my relationship with insecurity has radically changed because I can see it for what it is, as opposed reacting to it. I used to get so reactionary. I used to be so caught up with it that I couldn't think straight. But when I just if I could just relax into the moment and notice, I'm just having some anxious thinking, That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything about me. I used to think that it meant a lot about me. And so if we can just kind of watch how that happens, that pattern happens on a daily moment to moment basis, you can have a lot of insights about why you're scared about showing up in public. It's really changed everything for me just to see that. you know, I used to really believe my whole approach in coaching other women on this issue was very cognitive based. In other words, we would really do a lot of work on our thoughts, the thoughts that come through, how to change your thinking, how to think more positive, how to dissolve your negative thinking. And, there's nothing wrong with that per se. I mean, it did work kind of, for many years for me. But then again, it didn't work because what happened was, at best, I got some really good coping and managing skills. I did. The whole fake it till you make it. You go out there and you fake it till you make it. And before you go online or before you get on the stage to do a presentation, you just dissolve all your negative thinking and, give yourself a good talk, about getting out there and doing it. And that's okay. But what I found with my clients was that many of them, they'd come for a coaching session and we do all that good work. But then within a month, they were kind of coming back with the same old problem. It was like refilling a prescription, every month. And so it wasn't, for me personally and for them, I noticed that it just wasn't a sustainable approach to dealing with these issues. The cognitive path wasn't a sustainable way for me. And so what this new understanding for me gave was a deeper, soulful understanding of what was really going on, and that has given me more of a solid foundation in which to do my work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. For those that are listening live, for those that are listening on the replay, well, first of all, I'd love to kind of dive into something that you mentioned regarding when you heard that analogy. It's not like you just woke up the next day and you were just like cured.
No, not at all.
And I would like for there to be some conversation around what is a clue or one tool that you could give to us that could help us start to move in the direction of finding whatever has us covered, like whatever has us putting our brake on. How do we start to kind of maneuver through that and figure out what our thing is?
Well, for me, because I heard something that went deep, I said, I kind of took it like this is a little, because I really wanted to get to the bottom of my problem. I saw this as a sign from the universe that, someone said something to you, now honor it. And how I honored it, Sabrina, was by taking action. And it was difficult, but I had to take the risk. I had to have the courage to go out there and just kind of break the cycle. And I'm going to use a strong word here because I believe that insecure thinking and self-doubt thinking is like an addiction. If you've had it like I have all my life, it's an addiction. We're addicted to thinking in that way. And because I had spent my whole life thinking that way, it's going to take a little while for it to kind of fizzle out. Can you see how it is? It's kind of like an addiction. Like if you've always drank, if you've got an addiction to alcohol, you don't just stop. Some people do, but generally not. So I've always seen it that I knew that when I was going to put myself out there, that there were going to be days where I just didn't feel good, and there were. And I questioned, is this really working? But I always reminded myself that what I had fed into my brain all those years ago about my self-worth, that was still ruminating. And it took a while for those layers to come off. They weren't going to come off overnight. Maybe for someone like Eckhart Tolle or Byron Katie, you know, when they have these mystical experiences, they do. But for most of us, it takes a while to shed those layers. And so the way I did it was to kind of put myself out there to really to do the strategies, you know, to get strategic, to learn some skill sets that I didn't feel strong in, and to put myself out there, but in conjunction with knowing what I knew, right, about who I really was at my core. And the combination of those two just worked beautifully for me. Because I've also seen with a lot of coaches, say, for example, when they all get into strategy, right? And they want to put themselves out and do this and do that, but they're not feeling confident in themselves. It never works. It never worked for me. But if you can start to really understand the foundational piece of who you are, who you really are at your core, and that you have everything you need, and combine it with taking action. I call it, it's where soul meets strategy. And one without the other is kind of useless. But if you put those two together, you've got a really powerful combination. Because if you're just all inner work and soulful work and you never do anything, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
And if you're all strategy, but you have no understanding of the spiritual side of who we really are, then it just falls flat. So that's the combination there. So, you know, the solution to my problem personally was not so much in the doing, although that was part of it, but it was more in the seeing of what had been going on all these years for me. And when I really saw the truth of what was going on, how I talked myself into believing that's who I was. I was just an insecure. I was Linda's insecure. Linda's shy. Linda doesn't put herself out there. Linda doesn't have any voice. She doesn't have anything to say. I had fed myself that for years. But when I could see the truth of what I'd done, how I'd made all that up, boy, it's like, you know, the curtain gets pulled.
Yeah. I'm just writing down all the goodness that you're sharing. As far as getting over ourselves and really allowing ourselves to sit in this awesome thing called life and not worrying so much about all of the negative self-talk. What is your viewpoint on that? What's some advice?
Yeah.
How do we get over ourselves?
I know, it's such a good question. And, you know, I'm still getting over myself, Sabrina. You know, it's, but the joy, there's joy in it now because I can see how it's all made up, you know, who we are is all made up. And that may make some people feel uncomfortable when, you know, you realize that this is all an illusion and who we really are is something much bigger. That can feel quite scary to people. But how do we get over ourselves? I'll tell you, for me, I reached a point in my life where I just got fed up with feeling insecure. I got fed up of seeing other women do what I wanted to do, you know, and it's like, I just don't want to live this way anymore.
Yeah.
And it really just came to that. It was just, and that's proof for me anyway, that there was something within me that wanted to be born. There was something that wanted to come out and be expressed. And, you know, thank God for our design, because I think we are designed to be here on this earth and to discover that. And, you know, for me, it was like, there's no way that I can just sit comfortably on the couch and watch Netflix and just give in, you know.
Totally.
Something was always, every time I would have a you know, one of those moments where I'd say, oh, I can't do this, I'm going to give up, something always called me back. There was something always calling me to live this most expressive version of myself. And I couldn't stop it. And I was just so miserable when I wasn't that way.
Yeah.
And I would see other coaches speaking on subjects that I had ideas on. And I thought, well, why can't I do that? And so that was a real motivator to get out of my own way.
Totally.
And to see, well, let's just, what's the alternative? Netflix? What's the alternative, you know? So yeah, does that answer your question? Because it's a great question.
Yeah, definitely. I would love for you to, obviously we're getting a really good idea of who you are, what you do, but I would love for you to give us a rundown of exactly what you teach on. We have a ton of people watching live right now. Who should be reaching?
Great. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, who should be reaching out to you? Who do you help? Obviously you're resonating with them, but who should specifically be reaching out to you? Who do you help?
Yeah, I help two categories. Well, yeah, coaches, entrepreneurs, mainly coaches. And so the work that I do with them is, you know, like I said, there's the soul meets strategy. And we toggle those two areas very deeply. Because here's the thing, you know, if you want to feel confident, part of feeling confident is knowing who you are. It's really about knowing, and as it pertains to coaches, it's like really understanding and having a deep knowing of who you are as a coach, who you serve, what is the genius work that you do with clients. And so a lot of the work I do with clients is really kind of going into that area to figure out who are you? Why are you doing this beautiful work? And what is your specific, unique connection to coaching? Because with me, this whole area, isn't it interesting that the thing that really collapsed my life for so many years is the thing that I'm actually working at now. Like if you had have asked me 20 years ago, oh, you're going to go on to become a coach. Did you know that you're going to be a coach and you're going to work with women in this whole area of confidence? If you had have said that to me, you know, when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, I would have said, sorry, you got the wrong person. That's not going to be me. But so part of the work I do with coaches is to really help them connect on a soulful level to the kind of work that they can do, that they can bring, and that brings out their own confidence, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also important to recognize that you're never too young and you're never too old. Like I remember being, you know, 25, 28 and being like, wait until I'm 30. And then once I'm 30, I'm like, whoa, once I'm 35 and then once I'm 36, I'm still, you know, so it's like there comes a point where you just have to sit down and you have to say, it doesn't matter with my age. It doesn't matter if I feel like I'm too young or if I'm too old. If you're not feeling comfortable stepping forward into the power of which you know is inside of you and you're waiting for a certain sort of maturity to hit you, sitting down with somebody like Linda makes sense. Because it's literally just something that needs to be uncovered, and that can be done at any age, younger or older, you know?
Yeah. And let me also say that, of course, when you say about age, that's just an excuse as well. We all have our excuses
That
or
was big for me.
reasonings, about why we don't want to do something. Um, but yeah, I think my work with coaches, I think there's a lot of coaches out there who are so good at what they do, but it's that whole getting visible that really scares them.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, to be seen and heard is a scary thing, especially in this day online.
Yep.
And we women have a history of being persecuted for being seen and heard, right? This goes back generations and decades and centuries. And so it isn't easy, but it is possible. And I think when you find your voice, your own voice, and you know who you are, especially within your profession, then it's just a no-brainer. Then you just want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Can you remember times when, I hope so, when you fell in love, Sabrina? The first
Yeah.
time you really fell in love with someone.
Yeah.
And there was like this confidence that came out of you because you knew why you loved your partner, right?
Yeah.
And you wanted, what was the next thing? You wanted to tell the world, right? When I was in love, I wanted to tell everyone that I'd met this great person, and it's the same with your business. It's kind of like dating. When you can get really, really, um, really specific and really intimate with you and your work and why you're doing what you're doing and what is the best work for you, then there's no, that handbrake comes off
Yeah.
completely.
Absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. For those of you listening live or on the replay who resonate with Linda and all the goodness that she shared, be sure to connect with her. Where can we find you? Social media, website? Where should people go?
Yeah, my website is lindafordcoaching.com. And there's a free gift on there for everyone. If I've got a free guide, if you want to get on there and download that guide, it is called, it's a long time since I've written it, but it's called The One Big Thing That's Going to Change Everything for You in Your Life. So it's a quick read. It's a good read. And so you can get that on my website, but lindafordcoaching.com. Yeah. And I have a YouTube channel and also a podcast called The Magnetic Woman. Who doesn't want to be a magnetic woman? So you can find me there.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much, Linda, for all of the goodness that you shared today. This was absolutely phenomenal. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Oh, well, thank you, Sabrina. And thank you for all the work you do. I can't believe how much you generate. You are a powerhouse. So thank you for all you do in the world. And hey, guys, just to let you know, we've got this, we are powerful. And next time you hear that voice that says you're not, just question it. Just play with it, question it. And let's move forward. We've got lots of work to do in the world. My God, look at what the state of the world is. We have so much to do, and we can't let our insecurity stop us from doing that. What we need.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an absolute delight. I so appreciate you coming on, hanging out with us, and sharing all of your goodness. To our dedicated listeners, thank you for staying with us and hanging out to the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. And once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way. Until next time, do something awesome today.